UK's poorest to fare worst in age of automation. Think tank warns. The rise of the machine economy risks social disruption by widening the gap between rich and poor in Britain, as automation threatens jobs generating £290 billion in wages. Jobs accounting for a third of annual pay in the UK risk being automated, according to the study by IPPR think tank, warning that low-paid roles are in the greatest dangers. It urged ministers to head off the prospect of rising inequality by helping people retrain and share in the benefits from the advances in technology. The study for the IPPR's Commission on Economic Justice, which features senior business and public figures, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, called on the government to take a greater role in managing and the adoption of robotics, artificial intelligence, and other methods of job automation in the workforce. Matthew Lawrence, a senior EPR, said, managed badly, the benefits of automation could be narrowly concentrated, benefiting those who own capital and highly skilled workers. Inequality would spiral. The IPPR estimates that 44% of jobs in the UK economy could feasibly be automated, equating to more than 13.7 million people, who together earn about £290 billion. Although it doesn't give a forecast for how long this would take, it cited U.S. research which estimates the changes could occur over the next 10 or 20 years. From the collective pay pool worth £290 billion, middle-income jobs such as call center workers, secretaries, factory workers are likely to be hollowed out. Low-skilled workers could also lose their jobs or face fewer hours from greater levels of automation. At the same time, the highest earners and workers able to retain will gain higher pay thanks to rising productivity, which means more output being generated per hour worked. The research follows similar studies warning of the risks arising from the current rapid advances in technology, which have enabled machines to take on work that was once the preserve of humans. The Bank of England has said as many as 15 million jobs in Britain are under threat. Measures called for in the IPPR report include a UK skills system to help retrain those affected by the introduction of machines into the workforce, as well as the ethics watchdog to oversee the future of automating technologies modeled on the Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority, which regulates embryo research. Wow. Wow. Ministers are also being urged to consider new models of company ownership in the face of increasing returns to asset owners, because rising automation could result in higher profits for those who own companies at the expense of workers' salaries. Kerry Roberts, a research fellow at the IPPR, said some people will get a pay rise while others are trapped in low-pay, low-productivity sectors. To avoid inequality rising, the government should look at ways to spread capital ownership and make sure everyone benefits from increased automation. Proposals in the report to tackle the threat of greater inequality posed by automation include greater use of employee ownership trust, forcing businesses above a certain size to share profits with workers, the creation of a sovereign wealth fund for investing in company shares. A spokesman for the Department of Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy said the government was committed to ensuring that the UK is able to seize the opportunities and overcome the obstacles for automation. Government is working closely with industry to ensure the benefits of new technologies are felt across different sectors of the economy, up and down the country, while creating new high-skilled, well-paid jobs, said the BEIS. Labor seized on the report to attack the Conservatives' track record on handling the economy, saying the time was right for a widespread adoption of democratic models of company ownership. The Shadow Treasury Minister, Jonathan Reynolds, said after 7 years of the Conservatives running down our economy, it is clear Britain needs a government that plays a role in driving and managing the change needed to solve Britain's investment and productivity problems. Warnings about technology replacing jobs are a common feature of industrial history. Exemplify. See, I told you. I fucking told you. I keep telling you guys. And here it is right here. Right here. I was telling you guys. Now they're fucking telling you the truth. Check this out, highlighted. Warnings about technology replacing jobs are a common feature of industrial history, exemplified by the Luddites of the 19th century who smashed up machines used in textile manufacturing. But despite the ability of automation to lift people from menial work into higher paying jobs, there are fears that advances appear to be resulting in faster, wider, and deeper degrees of change than in the past. Gonna see the rise of new Luddites, I'm telling you. An analysis of the potential winners and losers in the IPPR report shows that jobs in the northeast of England and Northern Ireland are the most at risk, while London and the South are the most insulated, which could lead to wider geographical inequalities. As many as 48% of jobs in the Northeast have high technical potential for automation versus 39% in the capital. Advances in technology could help improve productivity, a measure of the economic output per hour worked after years of sluggish growth and inefficiency levels since the financial crisis, which has held back both GDP growth and also higher wages across Britain. An accelerated trajectory of automation could raise productivity growth by between 0.8% and 1.4% annually, according to the report, boosting GDP by 10% by 2030. Without a return to the pre-crisis growth rate for efficiency gains, the country is on a course for 2 decades of lost earnings growth, according to analysis from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which has said it expects average wages to stay below their 2008 levels when adjusted for inflation for years to come. Wow. Permanent depression. Although the rate of unemployment stands at its lowest rate since the mid-1970s, earnings growth has been held back amid a proliferation of low-skilled and low-paid work created in recent years. While there has been a boom in the number of self-employed and those working the gig economy. The report said increased automation of activities would help lift productivity levels and therefore could be used to pay for higher wages, acting to offset some of the 290 billion in wages lost to machines. But if automation is managed poorly, it could lead to greater concentration of wealth for those at the top and a wider gap with the poorest in society. The government has taken some steps to address challenges ahead, including partnership with the TUC and the CBI to develop a national training scheme for workers, as well as launching an industrial strategy to drive up productivity. Got one word for you folks in the UK. What they're saying is bullshit. Let me say it again. Bullshit. And once it starts, and the only way out of this is to automate, because China is absolutely going to crush everybody. China is sprinting away as we speak, and the West is trying to catch up, which I don't think they can. But they're going to automate. Talking about damn the torpedoes. A lot of my UK fellows are going to be redundant. Redundancy is already a problem in the UK, and it has been for 10 years, since before 2008, and it accelerated under 2008. I was talking to a bunch of my UK expatriates that moved to Ghana and West Africa. The reason they moved is because they were redundant. There aren't any jobs, and this is going to make it worse. So the universal basic income will have to come in, otherwise the UK will become unlivable. It cannot support 60 million people and half of them are out of work. It's not going to happen. There are things that are going to be in crisis. The United States has a different plan because there's plenty of land, there's plenty of space, there's other alternatives that people can actually form their own, like many subgroups and many societies, because there's plenty of land. The UK does not have that particular, how can I say? They don't have that luxury. It is what it is. Keep that in mind. My brothers, especially my brothers in the UK, you black brothers in the UK, y'all got to figure something out real quick, because the UK may not be the place for you, because once those British crackers get out of work, man, guess who they're gonna start looking for? Yep, you guessed it. So you guys better buckle up, man. Buckle up. As long as British citizens, British white folks are comfortable, they're okay. Once they get uncomfortable, that German blood kind of rises up in them and they can get vicious. So you guys be aware. Anyway, I'm going to go on to the next article. Now, here's a different take. Universal basic income is no panacea for us, and labor shouldn't back it. There aren't many ideas that unite trade unionists, the libertarian right, and the green movement, and the Silicon Valley tech scene. But that's the Rainbow Alliance backing a universal basic income, a centuries-old idea posited as the solution to a range of 21st century problems. Is its surprising coalition of bedfellows a sign of an idea whose time has at last resoundingly come, or a symptom of a catch-all superficial fix in search of a problem? Universal basic income, sometimes called a citizen's income, is the idea that the state should pay every adult citizen a regular modest income. It is a no-strings payment, so unlike benefits currently available to people of working age, it is not means tested. You get it regardless of whether you have a job or are looking for work, or whether you're. A basic income has long counted on support from the political fringes. It has appealed to radical feminists and Greens frustrated by capitalist failure to properly value non-monetary work such as care. The libertarian right embraces it as an opportunity to roll back the bureaucracy of the state, replacing public services with a simple, regular cash payment to be spent as people wish. But the real reason for basic income's unlikely elevation to idea of the moment is the growing chorus of thinkers who seem to believe the modern economy can't function without it. Tech utopians talk up the rise of robots and the development of artificial intelligence, which they say will leave less work to go around. They argue that this is the perfect opportunity to embrace a 4-day work week and top everyone up with a basic income payment. Labor market dystopians, on the other hand, rightly point to a growing insecurity in the low-paid labor market and the millennials bouncing from gig to gig, never quite pinning down the security of a permanent contract. For them, a basic income is the poverty backstop that could help people cope with this brave new world. Ken Lochian, welfare critics, meanwhile, denounce today's convoluted benefit system worlds away from the contributory insurance-based system of the past. It has become overloaded with sanctions as politicians compete to become ever more punitive to demonstrate there's no such thing as something for nothing. So people who have been laid off find themselves pushed further into hardship after having their benefits docked for reasons outside their control. Wouldn't it be easier to eradicate that inhumane, overbearing complexity and replace it with something that gives people more breathing room to find the right job? But like so many ideas overstretched to become the answers to all problems, a basic income falls short on all of the above. If we could be bothered, we could fix the caring issues simply by increasing the generosity of the stingy state benefits paid to those who care full-time for older people or adults with disabilities. If we were so inclined, we could get rid of the punitive benefit sanctions and replace them with a welfare to work system that puts much more emphasis on training and support for people to find the job that is right for them, not the first that comes along. But it is in its most ambitious and radical incarnations that the basic income runs aground. People have been predicting the end of work for a long time. Guess what? Whether they count themselves utopian or dystopian, they have always been proved wrong. The wheel, the loom, the washing machine, the PC, as innovation after innovation has replaced some forms of human labor, the steady march of progress has replaced that labor with something else. It's tempting to think that our inventions are more transformative than those of our ancestors, but it's much more likely that, as in the past, technology will radically reshape the world of work without reducing its sum total. That's partly because the idea that there is a set of amount of paid work to be done is an error, which economists call the lump of labor fallacy. In fact, the richer we get, the more cash we have to spend, creating more demand and more jobs. Far from robots stealing the jobs, reality is that firms are underinvesting in technology and suppressing productivity. None of this should take away from the fact that we have some serious challenges ahead. The idea that the labor market is being reshaped rather than shrunk won't be very comforting to taxi drivers losing their jobs to self-driving cars and finding they lack the skills for new ones being created. But paying people A meager basic income won't help. We know from the disindustrialization in the past that leaving people who get laid off languishing on long-term benefits wreaks untold damage on working lives curtailed decades too early. Britain has always had too many low-skilled, low-paid jobs offering poor prospects of progression. That should seriously worry us, particularly in the light of new research that suggests that having a low-paid, stressful job is even worse for your mental health than unemployment. Far from robots stealing jobs, the reality of today's economy is that many companies are underinvesting in technology, suppressing productivity growth. In some sectors, labor is so cheap and easily exploitable, it doesn't make sense to modernize. For instance, Leicester's garment industry is still heavily reliant on old-fashioned sweatshop models. In sectors such as parcel delivery and logistics, technology itself is being used to turn workers into quasi-robots. Wrist-based devices measure routes workers take around the warehouse or delivery rounds to check them for speed and efficiency and track them right down to how long they take for toilet breaks. The answer cannot be to accept this sorry state of affairs and try to patch things up with basic income. It must be to address the fundamental imbalances that allow employers to shift risk to their employees by forcing them to become self-employed contractors or refusing to pay them for breaks, and develop long-term solutions for improving the quality of work. You can see the attractions of a basic income for Silicon Valley. Firms such as Uber, whose drivers are classified as self-employed partners, rely on the risk shift model. Even as Facebook's founder Mark Zuckerberg heaps praise on a basic income, the tech giant does all in its legal power to avoid tax and dodge paying its fair share towards the social infrastructure it relies on. The left must not allow itself to be seduced. A basic income is a distraction from these core issues of economic power, a radical sounding excuse to look the other way from less glamorous, more complex question of how to ensure labor markets' rights are properly enforced, accepting a deterioration in employment rights and working conditions in exchange for a basic income could be dangerously counterproductive. Tax credits that function as income top-ups for people on low-paid work have steadily been eroded by conservative chancellors over 8 years. Labor rights are more future-proof. It's impossible to imagine government being able to cut statutory maternity leave, the minimum wage, or limits on the working week without a much tougher fight. Although, if they are not properly enforced, these rights can never end up meaning little in practice for workers with unscrupulous employers. The left will have to pick its battles. It must focus on winning the right to a decently paid job for all, not sell out by extolling a basic income as a panacea for the ills of the modern labor market. It must choose the fight for power, not the fight for a dribble of cash. This is from The Observer by Sonia Sodha. It looks like this is going to come into crisis. It's going to come into crisis real quick. When you marry the two, I know people from the left or people that are so-called radical leftists, that are radical socialists, want to change the work environment, want to change the capital environment, which is a hard sell. It's going to, if you to even try to crack that nut, it's going to take 20 years. And the basic income is a short stop. It is a short gap because they don't have any answers, because nobody can agree. So the leftists are willing to let people starve in the street. Well, maybe they want people to starve in the street because starving people do what? They overthrow governments. Maybe that is what they want. I don't know. Now, this one I can't figure, because the left it's very interesting to see that the socialists, economists, do not want the universal basic income. Now, they'll settle for a 4-hour work week, not 4-hour work week, but a 4-hour day, but a universal basic income that doesn't provide work for people or doesn't give people the opportunity to work is something they're against. But the thing is, they're looking at the machines now, right now. Then I look at the machines 5 years from now or 10 years from now, which the techies are looking at, man, they're looking at shit 20 years from now. And they're saying there ain't going to be no jobs in 20 years. Hell, there may not be any jobs in 7, for most part, for a vital few, a very few people. When you can put up a tiny house or a group of tiny houses in a day, basically you can build a whole neighborhood of tiny houses that used to take 3 or 4 years, and you can do that in a week. And then take another week to finish the houses, and they're ready for occupying. Within a few weeks, you take some of the boring technology, man, to actually put in pipes and put in. If you can build a railway tunnel with the boring technology, you can put in pipes and fittings and sewage, and basically all the kind of sewage and stuff like that, which is necessary to have this kind of tiny house neighborhood. Like they said, they've been holding this shit back. No, that's what they said. They said they've been holding this back. But the time for it has come. They can't figure out anything else. That's how come you have techies, you get people on the left, you get conservatives and capitalists all coming together, actually getting behind the universal basic income, because you don't have anything else. And the UK has been through this because they, like they said, they have mentioned the Luddites. That's just a mentioning the Luddites. They've been here before. And socialism is what they picked to save their country and save their economy, because they've been here before. The UBI probably will be instituted in Great Britain. Now, what it's going to mean for the average UK citizen, I have no idea, because it's never been done before. But by 2025, you will fucking have your UBI. I damn near guarantee it. In 7 years, there'll be so few jobs and so many people that are redundant. They will, basically the government is trying to get out of the business of trying to find work for people. They're throwing up their hands. They can't, because China is not going to stop. Korea is not going to stop. China, Russia, the BRICS will run over you, and everybody knows it. You can't compete with China now with cheap labor. What are you going to do when they automate? And you haven't. And the UK has been surviving on the banking sector. What happens when cryptocurrencies, the AI and the blockchain start a new SWIFT system where they don't need you anymore? What is London going to do? There won't be money coming in. These are things to think about. These are things for the UK citizens to think about. I don't normally concentrate on the UK citizens, on the UK, because, like I said, I don't live there. There's another article where people are rethinking Brexit. That Brexit may not have been a good idea, but that boat has sailed. You can, just like Daffy Duck says, I can only do it once. But it is what it is. This is for my UK followers, for Adam and a few others that actually follow me from the UK, because I don't often do stuff from the UK. But I do think I'm going to start doing more of it, because I don't know exactly how many followers from the UK I have, but you guys have been my ride or die for a very, very long time, and I don't give you guys enough attention. But I'm going to start probably doing more stuff from the UK for the UK, and doing stuff that's specific to you guys, and giving what I think, even though, like I said, it's kind of hard to give analysis when you're not on the ground. And a lot of stuff coming out of the UK as far as news and kind of stuff is kind of, well, not even kind of, very slanted. Okay, very slanted. So sometimes it's difficult to piece together exactly what they're trying to do, but I will do my level best. But with that, I'm going to jump off of here. I think this is actually going to be one of the longest ones I've done in a while. I'm proud of myself. But this is BGS out. I see you guys on the next one.